Okay, Peterson, just no more tweeting at all. No more. I don't know if there are any other Viking fans out there who agree with me on this one, but we need to trade him, like, soon. I don't care. Like, if I were managing this team, if I'm Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer, I'm talking about trying to put him on the block tonight. Like, right now. Because of all of these things he's got going on here. He even, like, there are a lot of teams out there that would have just cut him immediately on some of the things that he has done. So the fact that he is just willing to do this, like, of all these tweets, it was like 11 in 1 hour. Especially since one of them said that they asked him to take a pay cut when they never did. He's the one that brought the money into this equation. So he said he wants this contract fully guaranteed, and then he'll be comfortable playing for the Minnesota Vikings once again. Now, this man's a struggle to deal with. He's a headache. We don't need him on this team anymore. This is a young team. We don't need our star players revolting against our team. So if we can actually get, because they didn't play with him last year. Teddy looked fine last year without him. So I think the fact that we even had the 12th rushing offense in the league anyway kind of speaks volumes of how much he actually is expendable to this team. That's why I think they were happy with just kind of letting this thing play out as it probably should have, because, play for us or play for no one. Because they had, enough guys to fill the hole while he was gone, like what it would be if it were just him running it anyway. So it's about the same rank of offense there. So the fact that he's going to go off on these Twitter rants claiming how he's not getting enough money, how they're not honoring his contract, all these other things, does he not recall that we kind of paid him during his suspension? Until he was actually suspended without pay at on November 18th or something like that. We were paying him his money. We paid him about $5 or $6 million during his suspension. That's not honoring the contract? That sounds like honoring the contract to me. But apparently he has other terms for honoring the contract. He had another thing he actually said in that was that they basically need the same amount, like the players need the same amount of power as the front office. No, that is not how any of this works. The employer has more powers than the employee. That's the same way in the NFL. The executives and the general managers and the head coaches and all that are going to have more power over the players. He needs to accept that. He's been in the league for 8 years now. He should know this. So I don't understand why he thinks he can get away with this. I think they need to put him on the block, see what they can get, and then evaluate everything after that. And send him to a team like Jacksonville or Oakland who can afford to pay him and hopefully give up too much, because he is a good running back that can help a young quarterback. And with Derek Carr and Blake Bortles down there in Oakland and Jacksonville, well, that's pretty good. But then you might have to take Jacksonville out of the equation because they just drafted a running back. So that leaves Oakland wide open. I say get rid of him because I think we have enough guys with the 12th rush. We did rank 12th in rushing yards, not yards, rushing offense last year. And so that's usually about where it would be if we just had Peterson running it anyway. So it's like the same thing. So I think he's expendable enough for them to be saying play for us or play for no one, and that's why. Because we have players that can do what he can. He's just a singular player, but we have 2 or 3 players that we can get the same production out of as a whole. So he's not that needed, really. He's only needed in the fact that he would demand an 8-man box. Yeah, that's helpful, but I don't think it's helpful when it's hurting the team like this. This is this is a new low for him, honestly. He wants so much for what he did. Does he not remember that he was, he whipped his kid with a branch, and he's demanding that they're not honoring his contract? Who pulls that card? He doesn't get to play a woe is me card in this. He is not the victim here. If anything, the team, like the organization, has been playing this the right way so far. I think it's the NFL who has messed it up, really, and now it's just going into Peterson's head with all the media and all these other things that he is actually starting to go into this kind of thing. I don't know if he's going to get past it. I don't think he will, personally, but I think we might be able to get some. I don't know what we can get for him, but because now I think everyone's going to know that we're going to be trying to trade him so we'd get less, which is a problem. But I think we can add things that are not, like this. Like, because they keep preaching these high character guys. This is not a guy that's a high character guy. This is a me kind of player who doesn't really. He doesn't show up to all the voluntary things. He's not going to show up unless he's getting paid for it anyway. So I don't know how long he's planning on holding out anyway, because he's losing money right now by not doing that. So he needs to start actually cooperating. Because if he, like I remember the other day, he said that he wanted to come back to the team. Well, that changed in quite a hurry, as now he is claiming that all the front office has all this power. Well, they've always had the power, and they always will have the power, because like I said, employers will always have more than the employees. There is a scale, players. This is so low. How? I don't know anyone in their right mind. He's going to claim that he's being underpaid at $12.75 million because they already said they're going to eat the contract. That's pretty guaranteed to me if you think about it, for at least this year. So I don't understand why he thinks he can just go ahead and pull this. He really can't. He has no leverage anyway. So they can literally just trade him to a crappy team. They don't have, he wants to go to a contender, we can trade him to a team that hopefully gives up too much and is nowhere near contending. And then we may be able to get more for him. It's not necessarily, Dallas is the only one. There will be more teams out there who would be willing to trade for an Adrian Peterson if that price comes down a little bit. So, like I said before, an Oakland or a Jacksonville might be willing to do that, to have that franchise kind of back in place. I don't know if that will actually happen. I'm kind of hoping it does at this point, because he is not. This is more of a passing league anyway, so I feel like Teddy, we can just go ahead with him and try to convert this into a passing offense, because he's not. This isn't going to be able to be ran much more with Adrian Peterson anyway, since he's 30 years old. So if we can just trade him out, I might be okay with just cutting him at this point, to be honest with you. Because he's complaining about money when we're going to pay him the most. He doesn't realize that. I don't know how he doesn't. There is no other team out there who is going to pay him $13 million a season at his age for his position. The position has been devalued. I know there were running backs in last year's draft who were taken rather high, but you're still looking at guys Gurley, who can be the next great back in the league, and you're looking at a guy in Gordon who had, 2,500 rushing yards last year in college at Wisconsin. So major production over that. Like we've never had anyone come out with kind of those numbers in recent history either. So I still think it was just a really deep class in general, and it started with very good quality in this past draft. But that's not going to be the case for every draft. And Peterson, still a running back. Running backs, I believe, are still a dime a dozen. I still believe that running backs are ultimately a product of the offensive line, unless they are a great back like Peterson is. He's never really had that great of an offensive line. They've never been really that bad either. They've been kind of like in the average to pretty decent kind of range. But like, if we're to build up our offensive line and put a guy like McKinnon back there, that's explosion that the defense has to account for, along with guys like Patterson and Wallace, with Charles Johnson, Jarius Wright, Stephon Diggs, all this speed. So I feel like that could be a better way to go at this point, because Peterson's not going to cooperate at all with this. So we need to trade him out and get something that can actually work. And by actually work, I mean in both senses of team chemistry and a player that will actually work. Because he's not going to come to practice. He's not going to do these things because of they're not honoring his contract. The contract has been honored. They paid him during his suspension about $6 million until like November 17th or 18th when the league suspended him without pay. I don't understand where his issue comes in. He has no leverage. He can't do anything with this. So he takes to the Twitter rant and he goes through all of this just to establish that he doesn't really know much at all about his own situation, it seems like. More people on the outside could potentially know more than him at this point, I think. Because he is not even seeing the consequences of these actions. These actions get him on a team like Oakland or Jacksonville at the moment. So, and where our team right now is building up, we're actually pointing in the upwards direction. As I think Jacksonville is still kind of iffy on that upwards or downwards direction. Oakland's heading on an upward direction, but we're closer than Oakland. So, and by the time Oakland reaches it, there's a good chance not only is Peterson past his prime, but he's well past the prime and won't even be there. So now you're talking like when he's on a contending team is when he's probably like 34, when he's not even starting anymore. That's the kind of thing that's probably that should be happening at this point, I think. Sending him to there. He is a frustrating individual. That is for sure.